Greetings, my fellow hunters, and welcome again. Today, we're going to be revisiting one of my old reviews, which is going to be the delectably and delicious Izakaya, Restaurant to Another World. Yes, I know it's an isekai, but it was one of my earliest reviews, so it doesn't count. Also, it's not a traditional isekai in any way. And how, you may ask? Well, I think if anybody watched my old review would know that, but for those who don't know already, sit back, enjoy, and let me say this. Get your table and prepare the menu, well as I prepare for the hunt. The story of Izakaya, A Restaurant to Another World, I'll stop dropping that part, I'll just say restaurant, basically is a simple one. Set in modern-day Japan, a small restaurant called Nakoya basically serves Western-style food. Now, to the unobserving, it is just a standard little restaurant in Japan that serves Western-style foods. However, once every 7 days, on what they would call the Day of Slaughter, a magical door will appear randomly throughout the fantasy world, and people can enter it to try new foods. There is no overwatching quest, there is no nothing. This is just a story about the izakaya and its eatery with its clients. The story is, sure, set in the restaurant, but we also learn much about the world, its characters, its politics, its history, its relationships between each other, and everything oh so important. Now, if you're saying that the story is so simplistic that it's surely not worth my time, you could be wrong. It's fascinating just to see what sort of characters come and go throughout the restaurant, or what they have, what their favorite foods. In fact, in the story, the foods actually are their nicknames. Some people have pork loins, or basically croquettes, or basically minced cutlets, or fried shrike, so on and so on. So the dynamics is basically there of introducing the characters, their internal relationships, and some people actually have so many interests. Some people love each other, and other people just tolerate each other because they like the food, and why waste a good food with some personal grudges, right? Its strengths are basically in the characters. This isn't a grand adventure story. This is just a world about characters in relationships and how they just live. And sometimes you just need that for a series, honestly. I know it's not like the greatest adventure, but honestly, I'd rather take a story that's like that than basically another boring isekai. And I think this is why I like it so much, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is that the story is basic and just not over the top. It's not grandiose or anything. It's simple. It's just the lives of the everyman, which we rarely see in fantasy worlds, if you know what I mean, when we always talk about the great hero. And it's just a fresh of breath air. Nobody's a hero. Everybody just wants to live their lives and have a good meal. And honestly, who doesn't want to go to a restaurant and just have a good meal? Am I right? As this anime has so many characters, all interesting with their own backstories, personal reasons, and hardships, I feel like if I talk about all of them, I would be here forever. So, just as usual, we'll be talking about the main three characters: the master of the restaurant, Aletta, who is a demon waitress, and Kuro, who is a dragon that is also a waitress. Now, that's interesting. Anyway, as usual, we'll be starting off with the main protagonist himself and then moving across the lines. So, let's begin with the master. Well, first up, as I said before, we have the master of the restaurant. Now, he is, how would I describe, a culinary master, as per se. He is specializing in both Asian and European cuisine, and he is very much able to whip up anything pretty well and pretty quickly. Not quickly, but he can do it with no effort, basically. He's a kind and caring man who doesn't see his restaurant for profit, but sees it as a way of satisfying people, because he believes that good people are enjoying food is an award itself and doesn't care much about the money, which is a noble thing. You don't get that much time. He isn't a man who wants to make as much money and be the richest man. He wants to be a man who wants to basically be proud of his work and as well satisfy those who eat his delicious food. And I'd say those are very positive qualities. I wish more people had them. Sadly, not many people do they? Next up, we have the waitress, Aletta. Now, Aletta is not a human like our master. She is a demon from the other world. Basically, she was unfortunately born in the circumstances, as she puts it, because she is a demon, but she is not powerful. She has not much magic. Her magic is that of humans. And because of her horns, she had to hide them, but when people found out she was a demon, they discriminated her and they fired her from whatever job she had until she met the master from the restaurant, who basically took her in as a new apprentice, and she became a waitress to the restaurant. And she basically enjoys it there. She's a kind and sweet-hearted demon, and that thankfully found the right person to help her get along. After some certain events, her luck was able to go back up, and she found proper employment from one of the customers. Overall, she's a sweet-hearted girl that was born that had some unfortunate circumstances, but in the end, she was able to find a way out and be able to make a better life for her. And that's a great story for anybody, regardless of who you are, to basically sympathize and try to work too. So, finally, we have the last waitress, Kuro. Now, Kuro is not like Aletta. She, on the other hand, is a dragon that transformed into an elf and basically works as a waitress like Aletta. However, she has a different circumstances because she is basically a dragon that's affiliated with Geth itself. I hope I don't get censored with that. But anyway, the point is that basically she had to, because of her danger she had to live in isolation for God knows how many centuries until, like Aletta, a door appeared in her territory and she walked through and basically tried the food. She was actually a bit fond for curry, and so to ensure that she wasn't a dine and dash, she decided, along with her friend Red, who is basically another dragon, said that she would work off her debt by paying for her. And basically she would work there for some curry. Enough, which was a bonus. I feel like that the way she does it, that she has trying to understand what it means to have emotions, because she lived away from isolation for so long, she doesn't know and or has a hard time contemplating it. But over time, with Aletta's kind-heartedness and master's guidance, she was able to learn how to basically learn emotions and form connections without fear of something bad happening, because that's something she wanted, and she finally got her dream come true. It's kind of a beautiful tale, honestly, if you ask me. So, now that we've covered all the main characters, how do I think about the characters in general? As I said before, the characters are all very much well written. They all have their dynamics. They all have stories, how they came to the restaurant. And regardless of their race or their creed, their background, they come in a mutual understanding that they enjoy food and they want to enjoy good food. And people who are basically bitter rivals can sit down, enjoy their food, and not bother, because I think the food is just so good that they just don't care. They want to get along because, A, if they don't, the master will just not cook for them, and that's a big no-no. And B, it's not really worth having grudges when you can sit down and enjoy a good meal. I feel like that's a lesson most of us can learn, that we shouldn't let grudges get ahead of what we enjoy and try to get on with ourselves. Sadly, that's a case that isn't always the case, but we're human. But regardless, I feel like the characters are originally strong, fun, entertaining, and all have a backstory and how they get to the restaurant, and especially how the characters that eat at the restaurant affect their world. Such as one time a person enjoyed pasta so much he decided to basically try to replicate it, and he's unashamed about that he tried to replicate pasta. Or the fact that, in the spoiler alerts, the emperor at the time basically liked potatoes so much that he snuck some potatoes from our world to their world and basically associated with the goddess of harvest. So again, how we do it is that our world has an indirect effect on their world, but in a lot of ways in a positive way. But I digress. Anyway, enough about the characters. We're going to be talking about the animation. So, now that we've talked about the characters, we're going to move on to the animation, as I said. And I have to say, the animation is pretty well done. It's very basic on a lot of does. It has quite a few highlighted moments with a lot of few action scenes, or basically about how it does environments. But the way it is the best, in my opinion, is how it presents the food. It has a beautiful angle to it, and the emotions that people have when they take their first bite is simply fantastic. And I think that is the highlight of this anime, is that it basically can express, I should say, the emotions that people can have as they take their first bite of the food. It has a few dips here and there, but not to the notings that I've noticed. And the fact is, I feel like the animation really just outdoes itself. It has no right to be this good, but the fact is, it's that good. It's colorful, it's bright, it's expressive, it's everything that I love. It has a good feel to it. It has some dark moments, and the animation shows it, but it has a lot of light moments as well, and it shows it beautifully. It just does it all fantastically. And when it does have the action scenes, as I said, they're decently fine, which you wouldn't expect from a series like this. Man, the animation is actually one of the best points of this series, and it should be, because if this is an anime about food, it should present it fantastically, and it so does. It does its thing, and that's what's fantastic about it. Honestly, every time I see it, it makes me want to eat something. That's not an easy feat. But yes, the animation for me gets a solid A++ for you. As much as I praise the animation, I do feel like the music is in the lacking part a little bit. No, don't get me wrong. The openings for both Season 1 and Season 2 are fantastic. They have high energy, they have a great tune to it. It just makes you excited to see what the series is going to happen. But after that, the series tends to have, very music. It plays it safe. It's very humbling. And show with a few action scenes ramps up, but nothing of the OST, the original soundtrack, sits anything like it can. It's just there, and it's doing its job. And I know I say that a lot, but it's hard for me to explain it the best way. It's there, it does its job, it doesn't stick out in any way. It brings the atmosphere, but it's not so memorable outside the opening and the ending that I can talk much about it. I love the opening, it's fantastic, upbeat and ending. And the ending is basically somber, quiet, and just mellows it out as the series ends. It's so beautiful, but everything between is kind of up in the air. Maybe you have a song you enjoy. So if you do, let's say it down below. We'll see about that. So, after all my praises and a little bit of on the music, do I recommend a Restaurant to Another World? I think the obvious question should be obvious, but just in case nobody is aware of it, I think the answer would be yes, I would recommend this anime to anybody who enjoys a good cooking show. And I know it's a tad hypocritical of me to recommend this series, considering it's a quote-unquote isekai, but I feel like this series is on the opposite end of that spectrum. It isn't, super powerful. The master isn't, some master of weapons or anything. He's just a chef who enjoys cooking. He's there just to basically please people because he is a person who believes that a good chef is a person who basically pleases the customers with good food. And it's a little tad refreshing that, frankly, that there's no overpowered or overarching story, and whereas the story is basically just the people, the characters that come to this restaurant, interact each other, putting grudges and hatred aside just because they want to have good food, and in the end, their prejudice goes away. I feel like that's something that wish would happen more in real life, but sadly this isn't fiction. Yeah, I know, I praise this anime a lot, but I feel like it's because it's just the fundamental flaw of most isekai is that it forgets one thing: to have fun. I feel like that we need shows like this to remind ourselves that we need to have a fun series that isn't so serious about taking over the world or having overpowered protagonists. That's the point. This is why I like it so much. It's a simple story about a simple chef about in a magical world that he doesn't care for, but enjoys the people there and just wants to eat, show them their food. It's something that I frankly wish more people, and isekais would just take in general, because it's so frustrating to just have overpowered protagonists constantly, just because, the plot demands him to be powerful because he was chosen by the goddess themselves and blah, blah, blah. Nothing special here, just a guy who likes to cook good food. Whew. If you enjoyed this series, thank you so much for joining me. My hunters appreciate it. My links are down below if you want to talk with me. My Discord is down below. I have so many tags and so many chats that I don't know what to do with them. I also have a Patreon down below if you wish to support me. If you don't want to pledge so much, I have a PayPal down below as well if you just want to support me a little bit but not want to be pledging on my Patreon. Any amount of donations is more than happy. Check my Twitter, I'm not calling it the other name for obvious reasons, down below. And on my other social medias that I'll be posting down below just because, I have to at least try something. And appreciate that you enjoyed this. I think we all agree that we're kind of full on this. So, until then, may the good blood guide your way. I'd like to thank my Patreons for subscribing to me. And if you wish to help support me, my links are down below. Any and all support is appreciated. And I would like to thank you all for watching my video. And I hope you all have a good day.